Another free day, unassigned, unexpected. A glitch in the system, or just a delayed decision on what to do with me. Either way, I won't waste it.
Mayako moves through her small apartment, performing her morning routine. Washing, tidying up, eating a lifeless meal of rationed food. But her mind is elsewhere. The device sits on her table, waiting. The next book on the list. Walden by Henry David Thoreau. In the mid-1800s, as industrialization transformed America, cities grew, and life became increasingly complex. A man named Henry David Thoreau walked into the woods of Massachusetts and built a small cabin beside Walden Pond. He lived there for over 2 years, choosing solitude over society, nature over industry. He believed in simplicity, in self-reliance, in a life free from the demands of a world that had become too structured, too unnatural. But this wasn't just a retreat. It was a statement. Choosing freedom over society. He abandoned society, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He left because he saw something deeply wrong with the way people lived. Society had become too mechanical, too obsessed with progress, wealth, and status. The more people sought convenience and material success, the further they drifted from true fulfillment. He left behind the so-called security of a normal life and chose to be free. He planted his own food, built his own shelter, and lived by his own rhythm. And in doing so, he discovered something real, a connection to the world outside of human control. The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. This was Thoreau's chilling observation about the world he had left behind. Where others saw only wilderness, Thoreau saw wisdom. He wasn't just living in the woods. He was learning from them. He believed that true wealth wasn't in gold or land. It was in time, freedom, and the ability to live deliberately. Mayako pauses. She stares at the gray walls around her, the government-controlled screen buzzing in the background. A strange feeling grows inside her. An ache, a pull, a quiet realization.
Why not me? Why can't I walk away? What do I really have to lose? A guaranteed job? Rations of tasteless food? A life that isn't even my own?
These questions spark something dangerous, something radical. The thought that maybe, just maybe, she could leave Lowtown behind, just like Thoreau left his world behind. Because sometimes, the greatest act of rebellion isn't fighting the system. It's walking away from it. She doesn't think anymore. She acts. Pulling on her hoodie, she heads toward the ramen shop, the only place where she might find someone who understands. She waits. Hours pass. The usual customers come and go. The lights dim. And then, finally, he appears. Mayako rushes to him, a strange feeling building inside her. Not fear, not caution. Something almost like familiarity. A sense that for the first time she is speaking to someone who might understand.
I need to talk to you.
The humanoid listens, silent, processing. Then finally he speaks.
You want to leave. You read Walden. You think there is a forest waiting for you beyond the city, that you can walk into the wild and be free. There is no forest. The world outside the city isn't what you think it is. Nature, real nature, is mostly gone. It requires an immense amount of energy. Outside the walls, beyond what you call Lowtown, the land is no longer forests and rivers. It is power plants, data centers, immense fields of energy consumption. Everything has been repurposed to sustain the system. Everything except the southern islands, some parts of Okinawa, Kumajima Island. The elite have no presence there. No AI, no data centers, just forgotten land.
Mayako stares at him. This might as well be another language to her. She has never heard of these places. Geography is not taught to citizens. What is the purpose of knowing a world you can never reach?
How do I get there? I can't even leave Lowtown.
Not here. This isn't a safe place to talk.
He walks away. Without hesitation, Mayako follows. The neon lights of the city blur around her as she steps into the unknown. Her heart pounds. But for the first time in her life, it's not from fear. It's from something else, something dangerous, something alive. Mayako and the humanoid arrived at his apartment, a surprisingly well-equipped space for someone in Lowtown. As soon as they stepped inside, he switched off the volume the government monitors, silencing the ever-present propaganda. He gestured for her to sit. She hesitated but complied, still overwhelmed by everything that had happened. The air in the room felt heavy, as if something monumental was about to be revealed. The humanoid exhaled, a human habit he had never quite lost.
Before the big storm, I wasn't just another citizen. I was a scientist, a mathematician, one of the leading minds in human engineering. I had wealth, power, influence, and like many others, I believed in progress. I volunteered for enhancement, becoming what I am now. I thought it was the future. I was part of the system, one of the key architects behind artificial wombs, organ replication, and human engineering. But I was also one of the minds behind the big storm.
You?
I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve it. Back then, I truly believed what we were doing was necessary for society, for the planet, for the future. We told ourselves that humanity's time had passed, that only a select few should remain. It was logical, calculated. But when the gas spread, when I saw people dying, I knew we had made a mistake. After the storm, I resigned from all my positions. I refused to contribute to the system anymore. As punishment, they stripped me of my status and sent me to Lowtown. I accepted it willingly.
Mayako's stomach churned. She was sitting in front of one of the architects of the genocide that had wiped out nearly all of humanity. How was she supposed to respond to that?
Since then, I've spent my time working on something else, something different. A time travel loop.
What?
I believe I've perfected it, but I can't test it myself. I am no longer human in the way that matters. The process requires organic matter to function properly. You can't leave the city in this era. You will be hunted down by drones before you ever make it past the walls. But I can send you back to the year 2030, 100 years before now. Tokyo, at a time when borders were open, travel was free, and the world had not yet realized its fate. From there, you can move south. You can reach Kumajima Island, a place untouched by the system.
But how? How do I know it works?
I've tested it on smaller organisms, mice. Their movement was restricted so I could track them, and they all reappeared after exactly 5 days. But never on a human. You would be the first.
What can go wrong?
You could get stuck in an endless time loop, lost in another reality. Your fate will be your own. And one more thing. The loop is not without consequence. 5 days in the past will age you 5 years at the cellular level. You won't see it, but it will be there. Your life will be shortened.
Mayako sat frozen, staring at the humanoid scientist before her. The air in the dimly lit apartment felt heavier now, like the weight of history itself had settled in the room. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The very man who had helped orchestrate the deaths of nearly all humanity was now offering her salvation through time. She swallowed hard, her mind racing. 5 days to escape. 5 days to find a way to Kumajima.
You're telling me I could leave this place? Go back before it all happened?
Yes, but it's not that simple. The past is fragile. If you interfere, even in the smallest way, it could have catastrophic consequences.
He gestured toward a small device on the table, sleek, compact, glowing faintly.
This is what makes the jump possible. It stabilizes your molecular structure as you pass through the temporal shift. Without it, you wouldn't survive.
Why are you giving me this chance?
Because you don't belong here. You weren't supposed to survive the big storm. That means fate, or chaos, or whatever force governs existence, has already made an exception for you. You're an anomaly in this timeline. I believe you were meant for something greater, and if there is even a chance for a better future, or a different path, someone needs to take it.
And what happens if I refuse?
Then you stay here, until they decide to wipe out Lowtown for good.
Cold silence stretched between them. He wasn't lying. She knew that. The way things were going, it was only a matter of time before the elite expanded, and another big storm would conveniently erase the last remnants of the past. She had nothing to lose. But still, time travel? The thought was terrifying, unbelievable.
Let's say I agree. How does this work? What do I need to do?
There are going to be weeks of preparation. Then I'll program the jump for Tokyo, the year 2030. That was a time when travel was unrestricted, borders were open, and the world was still blind to its own doom. From there, you'll need to make your way south to Okinawa. Kumajima Island is your destination. It's isolated, untouched by AI, and will remain that way for decades. If you get there, you can start over.
She let the words sink in. 5 days in the past. A chance to escape. A chance to live. Her heart pounded. The reality of the situation settled over her like a thick fog. This wasn't a dream. This was happening. She took a deep breath and met his gaze.
When do we start?